All right, let's talk about data. So, what is data? Data is information. We often recognize the term when we're talking about our cell phone plans, as in, I've paid for 50 gigs of data this month and I've already used up 46 gigs of data. Right? When we're talking about that, we are talking about the amount of information that has come into our phone via the internet or via Wi-Fi, whatever. Okay, in a general sense, data is a collection of facts. It can be values, it can be measurements, it can be numbers, it can be words, it can be colors, it can be anything. It is information about something. So we have two types of data. We have qualitative data, right? It describes the quality of something, right? So qualitative data could be like, that car is red, right? Or that shirt is size extra large, or that cat is adorable, right? Quantitative data is numerical information, right? So something like, there are 14 adorable cats. That's quantitative data, right? We're talking about a quantity. Or, I saw 3 red cars today and 5 black cars today. Okay? So what's the purpose of data? Why is it important for people to be collecting, for businesses to be collecting? Why is it important? Why are we talking about it right here? So we use data to make comparisons and calculations. Okay, we use it to make inferences, organize information, and to identify and predict trends. What's an inference? An inference is like an educated assumption. Okay, and that helps us. So we can say, if it's, let's say, the end of the summertime, right, and you're working in a shoe store, and it's coming into, let's say, September, October, the likelihood of people buying sandals is going to be a lot lower than it is people going to be buying boots, right? So that's an inference that we can make, and we predict and we use data that we collect in order to say, okay, maybe we should not ship a whole bunch of sandals in here in December, right? A really good example of this is what we collectively call the algorithm, right? Again, back to our cell phone, right? If anybody uses social media, you will notice that sometimes we'll engage with something online, or even we'll say, you'll think about something that you need to buy for someone. Let's say that someone needs, a tool of some kind, a wrench from the hardware store, and all of a sudden you'll start getting advertisements from Canadian Tire and Home Depot and things like this. This is an example of computers making inferences, organizing information, and using data in order to predict what they think that you are going to buy. The idea is this helps you to make an informed decision as a consumer. It also helps businesses to bring in people that might not typically be thinking of, Canadian Tire as somewhere where you can buy camping gear or whatever, right? So I want you to think about how this could be useful in a workplace, in a clothing store, or in a restaurant, right? What kind of trends do we want to be making inferences of? How are we going to benefit from having an organization of information collecting data? Okay, for example, in a restaurant, right, we want to be making inferences. We're ordering food, right? You have to get your food from somewhere, and the thing with food is that food goes bad, right? So it's really easy to say, okay, well, I can order 10 cases of carrots, but if I only go through 1 case of carrots in a week, right, and those other carrots are going to go bad. Carrots are maybe not the best example because carrots last a very long time, but you're starting to understand what I'm saying. We want to be making sure that the amount of products that we're bringing into our store is equal to the amount of product that we're putting out of our store, right? So think about some examples that maybe in, places that you shop, or places that you've worked, or even in your own household, right? If you are buying eggs for your house, right? Maybe instead of buying 24 eggs for a week, you only need to buy 6, because you don't eat eggs very often, and you don't use them very often, but sometimes you need them in there. And if you had too many eggs, then they would go bad, and that ends up wasting your money, right? So another thing we can do with data is we can track and we can measure different pieces of information, okay? So in this graph that we're looking at, we have the title, Mending More Subscribers to Television Programming Services. Okay, and we've got two bars, one for 2008 and one for 2012, and it's got the number of more subscribers to television programming services in those two individual years. Okay, this is numbers in the tens of thousands, and this is how the scale goes up. I want you to look at this graph. I want you to take a good amount of time and be looking at it, and I want you to think about all the information that is presented here. Okay, I want you to think about how this information is being presented and maybe who would be presenting this information and to whom. Okay, who is this information for and who is this information by, and how are they presenting it in such a way that could be, catering to what this business might be offering. Okay, one of the things that I want you to really think about is I want you to think about bias. Now, if we're coming from a business perspective, it is very, very illegal for a business to present a consumer or an investor or anyone like this with false information. That's called false advertising, and it's illegal. Okay? But one of the things that they can do is they can use slight biases. They can present information in such a way that makes it look either better for themselves or worse for somebody else, or it just looks different, and it's not inaccurate, it's just different looking than it could be for someone who has not seen all of the information. Okay, so take a look at this and then take a peek at the questions in the next section and answer them based on the things that you are seeing in this graph.